BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hi, Gary Lineker here. A quick word before we start. Don't expect your normal match of the day analysis on this pod, and there might be some bad language. In fact, there is. We're footballers after all. Cheers. Hello and welcome to Match of the Day Top 10. Slightly different circumstances this time around. A few weeks ago, about 5 weeks ago I think it was, we recorded 3 episodes in my kitchen. Now we're recording an episode in 3 houses. I'm at home, Alan Shearer's at home, and Ian Wright's at home. So that's the way we're going to do it. First and foremost, chaps, how are you? I miss you.
I'm loving isolation. You've got to love isolation. But the thing about isolation is, when you love yourself as much as I love myself, I don't mind being around myself.
How about you, Alan? Are you okay in your own company?
I'm okay. I'm just more worried about you two. I noticed that you're sat with golden boots behind you, I think so, and there's a trophy over Righty's right shoulder. Have you done this on purpose, the both of you, or what?
What trophy?
What's that over your right shoulder, Righty?
Sorry, that's my... I didn't even realise. Nance, what did you put that there for? That's just the my golf trophy. I won a celebrity golf tournament about 9 years ago. I don't know why it's there. I didn't notice it.
I can only apologise. I can only apologise, Alan, about my golden boots behind me. That was my boys' idea, actually. They said you could stick them behind you just to upset people. But I know you've got a load of those anyway. But it's this one that's most important. This one, Alan, is an FA Cup replica that Tottenham gave me when I won the FA Cup. So I just thought we'd throw that one in for good measure. So we this week are going to.
I didn't recognise that. I just thought that was your right ear. I just thought that was.
Very good. Touche. Anyway, back to the subject that really matters. This week we're going to talk about Premier League managers, and first and foremost, let's read out the top 10. And there's some great names, and there's some big names that have not made the top 10 as usual. Here we go. Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex, obviously. Arsene Wenger, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Rafa Benitez, Sir Bobby Robson, Jose Mourinho, Claudio Ranieri, Kenny Dalglish and Carlo Ancelotti. Some great names in there, but let's first talk about those that didn't make the list. Ian, I've written down Pochettino, Ruud Gullit, Roy Hodgson, Big Sam Allardyce and David Moyes, to name a few.
I would have probably said if Pochettino could have just nicked something. What he's done for Spurs in those, I think it's next month, it would have been 6 years he'd have been there. And what he's done for Spurs and the emergence of Spurs in the last 5-6 years, the way it's ended, is sad for him, I have to say. But to get Spurs to that level, with the way he's brought the players through, the coaching, he's improved players, went through a stadium change and everything, all he wanted was just more backing, more money, whether it's the stadium that stunted that or not. But I think that he's somebody that, unfortunately, is not in here. By no fault of his own. He obviously needed to win something, but I believe he's unlucky not to be in there because of the kind of calibre of coach he is.
Did you have Harry in there as well, Gary? Harry Redknapp?
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, good shout, Alan, because he obviously did win a couple of trophies, and with Tottenham and Portsmouth, of course, in the FA Cup. Yeah, he could have sneaked in, couldn't he?
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some big name managers in there who have managed 500-600 games that aren't in there. So yeah. But
I'm going to ask both of you: would you have actually preferred one of those to be in the top 10? And if so, who would you have taken out?
Wow. I think you can look at maybe Ancelotti with 87 games, maybe because of the number of games, and that's being quite harsh on him because what he done in that time with a very good Chelsea side, you have to say, he didn't need many games to do it because they were so good.
Alan?
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, Sam Allardyce, a number of games that he's had as manager, and Harry, David Moyes as well. So I think they're really unlucky. But in terms of the list we have here, I would probably keep it as it was.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive list. Let me explain once again that in terms of how we decide the overall order. It's obviously longevity, which is very important. How long have they been in the Premier League? How many trophies have they won? Managers that perhaps would ultimately be a little bit higher up if they've been in the Premier League longer. Klopp and Guardiola spring to mind. So, Ian, give me your 10 to 6, please.
Okay, 10, I've gone Ranieri. Ancelotti, 9.
Ooh. Yep.
Sir Bobby 8, Rafa 7, Jurgen Klopp 6.
Right. So Bobby Robson's in there. Obviously, he never won a Premier League as well, but obviously had a glorious career in different parts of the world, won trophies.
Yeah.
Manager of England, someone we all know.
Yeah.
So he's gone in at 8th there.
At 8, yeah. And I think that when you look at the time that he was at Newcastle and what he got got Newcastle to the last 16 when it out of the Champions League.
Yeah.
You know, and the way he kind of brought Newcastle back, got them to where they were challenging again. You know, I think that, you know, he's right to be in there, and I'd put him in there simply because of what he's done before. I know it's not nothing to do with the Premier League.
He has to be
involved
in that list.
You know, he has to get that recognition personally, I believe.
He was an absolute genius at man management, whether he was managing a 16 or 17-year-old who was just coming into the game, or whether he was managing a 34 or 35-year-old coming to the end of his career. He knew how to get the best out of players, and he saved my Newcastle career. If it wasn't for him coming into Newcastle, then I was on my way out of Newcastle, and he got me back to enjoying football. He got me back to
Was you on your way out, Al?
goals.
Al, what do you mean you're on your way? Was you going to leave after the Rude stuff?
Well, if Rude had stayed there, then I would have had to have left Newcastle. There's no doubt about it. But he came in and recognised straight away what was wrong with me, what made me tick, and how to get me playing football with a smile on my face again, how to get me scoring goals again. It was just something simple. And the way he got back in touch with the senior players, because Rude wasn't really interested in any of the senior players at Newcastle, whereas Bobby came straight back in, and he knew that if he wanted to get the club back on track, he had to have the senior players on side, and he did that within 2 or 3 days. He got all the senior players in the room. He got me in a room on my own as an individual, showed me some videotapes and showed me where he thought I was going wrong, and he was absolutely spot on. And almost instantly, he got Newcastle playing again. He got me playing again, and we all started loving our football again. And he was a genius at man management.
What were you doing wrong? What was your problem? Because obviously you've got such an unbelievable track record.
Well, he just said to me, you're making it far, far too easy for the defenders. Everything you're doing, you're coming towards the halfway line. You're not going the other way. You're not running towards the goal. Defenders love it when everything's in front of them. Start running behind and asking different questions and causing defenders far more problems. And he said, if you do that, you'll create more space, which will give other players more space. He said, if you do that, I promise you, we'll get other players in and around you, and we'll get balls into the box, which I obviously loved and thrived on, and started scoring a goal again. It was just something simple like that.
Did he know your name?
Yeah.
He was all right with my name, but that wasn't the case with other players.
Yeah, he was famously known for the fact that he couldn't. I remember the first time I ever got called up for England. I was at Leicester at the time, and I got a phone call from Gordon Milne on a Monday afternoon saying there's been a couple of injuries for England. Bobby Robson's been on the phone. Get to the club, grab a toothbrush, get your football boots from the club, and head up the motorway to Wrexham because they're playing Wales in a couple of days' time. So I remember driving nervously up and all this anyway. We started training, and then cometh the match. I was sitting on the bench, and about an hour in, he's just asked one or two of the lads, he says, you get warmed up, so-and-so get warmed up, and Garth, you go and warm up as well. Where's Garth? Oh, it must mean me. So, I mean, he was a wonderful bloke.
Let me tell you, don't tell me you mixed up with Garth Crooks.
Oh, we do look alike, righty. There are similarities. We both played up front at some point for Spurs.
Do you think that was all part of his game plan, though? Do you think he did a lot of that on purpose to get everyone on side, to get everyone to love him?
I don't think anyone would do that on purpose, would they? I'm not sure.
In terms of what he did at Newcastle, from where we were rock bottom at Newcastle, the football club, every player, but he took us from the bottom into Champions League football. So he did an incredible job.
Yeah, he was a superb manager. Well, he's your number 8 in 7. Rafa Benitez. You
know, the thing is as much as people want to say that for 45 minutes, Liverpool were embarrassing the country. I remember I was teasing my Liverpool mates at the time. My brother-in-law at the time, he was absolutely beside himself. And when you look at that Liverpool side and what Stevie Gerrard done from that Liverpool side in the Champions League, and remember it was the Olympiacos, obviously, but I remember even after that when Stevie Gerrard was saying, listen, we're just going to see how we go. We're going to go one game at a time. And he got that team there. And for them to come back and do what they've done off of the back of, we know how pragmatic he can be and how well he can organise his team. And we saw that when he, you know, as we go on and speak about what he's done to Newcastle. But I think that Rafa and what he's, the calibre of manager he has been and what he's done, and then he's one of the only top managers who would probably take a job like a Newcastle when he could have gone anywhere else in the world and got a decent job and couldn't do any more with Newcastle. Rafa has to be in there, not just because of that Champions League, but what he done. He had a go with Arsene Wenger. He had a go with Sir Alex and that. But in the end, I think the Champions League is where it'll be defined here. But at the same time, Premier League and what he's done for Newcastle, he's got to be in there.
Yeah, I've got a few stats.
Well said, Ian. Well said.
Yeah, two-time La Liga winner, FA Cup winner in 2006, and of course that 2005 Champions League winner. Also a winning ratio of 49%, which is not too bad considering where he's been compared to Ranieri at 48%. Klopp is not in your top five, but he's got a win ratio of 65% in the Premier League, which is right up there, Ian.
Well, I don't think you can argue with what Liverpool have done in the last couple of years, and I think that last season, let alone this season, and you just have to hope that something can be resolved so as they can go on and take the trophy which they so richly deserve. Yeah. And you have to say the last couple of seasons, obviously that has really bumped up that ratio. But we're talking about somebody who's come in and Liverpool, you know, they had a 60-page dossier on him. You know, he'd done a 4-hour interview. He knew exactly what he wanted. He laid it out. He told him exactly what he's going to do. And he's done it up to this point. The only thing that can stop someone like Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp at the moment is something like this bloody virus. But the fact is that I feel that, you know, we do this in another 3, 4, 5 years. Jurgen Klopp's well up there. He's way up there.
Absolutely. I mean, even last season, some of the football that they played, and we all remember that them going toe to toe with Man City, all the way, and some of the football, one defeat. Wasn't it that, and still not winning the league, but some of the football they played was sensational.
Okay, thanks, Ian, for your 6 to 10. Alan, can you give me yours? 10 down to 6, please.
Yeah, very tough. I've gone in number 10, Ancelotti. In 9, Rafa Benitez. In 8, Sir Bobby. In 7, Ranieri. And in 6, Jurgen Klopp.
Okay, that looks to me, Alan, like you agree on 2 places with Ian. That's Klopp in 6 and Sir Bobby in 8. Let me start with Carlo Ancelotti. He's down there at number 10. He's got an extraordinary record, not necessarily just in the Premier League, which is why he's low down, obviously, but he did win the Premier League and the FA Cup, of course, with Chelsea. But he won Liga in France, he won Serie A in Italy, he won the Bundesliga in Germany and the Premier League. He's only manager to have won 4 of Europe's top 5 leagues. Yep. That has to count in his favour.
Oh, when you look at his record is just sensational. Wherever he's been, Gary, you're right. Won the Premier League with Chelsea. I think in doing that, they scored 103 goals that season. The first team to do so in the Premier League and the FA Cup, as you say. I mean, the reason I've got him at 10 is because it was Premier League. 87 matches he was manager for. Yeah. I'm absolutely certain that if he had stayed longer, he'd be right up that list.
Yeah, but what about the fact now that now, you know, back at Everton, do you think Everton understand the calibre of man they've got? When you look at the list of what he's done, he's won everywhere. You know, he's won everywhere. Can you understand? Do you think that the Everton fans understand the calibre of manager they've got?
I think they do, and I said that when they actually signed him as manager to where Everton are. I know where they want to be. I know the money that they've thrown at it already, Everton, and that must have been a factor in him choosing to go there. But I think in terms of how lucky Everton are to have someone of that ability and his standing in the game, then I think that also tells you what was said to him to actually entice him into the football club.
Hang on a minute, what's wrong with Everton? It's a great football club with great tradition, great history, great support.
Yeah, but we're still showing Ancelotti a lot of love by the fact that for 87 games, he gets in the top 10 all time. And I think that, you know, we can't show him any more respect.
Didn't he finish second in the following season when he won the Premier League at Chelsea and then got sacked?
Got sacked, yeah.
It's a crazy world, management, that's for sure.
Yeah, but it was Chelsea.
Well, the one thing strikes me here, Alan, the one I think fundamental difference from Ian's 10-6 is that you've got Claudio Ranieri 3 places higher in 7th. Is that down to what he did at Leicester or his overall record?
No, I mean, when you went to, he had the title of Tinkerman, didn't he? Whilst at Chelsea, although he did sign Frank Lampard and Makelele, if I remember rightly, when he was there as manager. But I mean, it's a miracle. He delivered a miracle at Leicester. I don't think you can put it any other way. For Leicester to do what they did that season and win the Premier League, it was a miracle, and that's why he's so high up on the list.
Well, that's why I put Wes Morgan in front of Steven Gerrard, which I've been getting stick for. I don't even want to leave my house. I'm not even in Liverpool.
And rightly so, righty.
Well, I tell you, for personal reasons, I'd have had Claudio Ranieri at number 1, possibly, but for what he did. I mean, it's honestly, people ask me about what's the best sporting moment of your life, and I have to say, it's not playing, it's not winning, not even winning the FA Cup, Alan. It was actually when Leicester won the league.
I remember when we were in the match of the day room, and it happened. It was all, and I remember when you started crying. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to actually, I'm not going to make a joke or do anything. I just looked across and I went, oh my God, Gary Lineker's crying. And what's that over there? Let me go and get another bar of chocolate.
That was when, I remember that was actually when they gave him the trophy, wasn't it? And,
yes.
Claudio Ranieri and the opera singer. And
it was a
just,
moment.
It just did me. It wasn't the only time I cried. It wasn't.
Yeah, but I've never seen that emotion.
No.
I've never seen you being emotional. And it was quite, I wanted to take the piss, but I thought, you can't do that now, E. But Gary Lineker is crying.
He was getting emotional because he realised he had to make himself look an absolute and sit in his boxer shorts and match of the day.
That's quite a good point.
Yeah, but the shorts weren't even good shorts. They weren't even good shorts.
No, they weren't good shorts, but they were baggy.
How could they let you on match of the day sat there with your tits out like that? You didn't even have a bra on.
He needed a bra.
Boobs. leave my boobs alone, will you? My boobs. Anyway, but actually that wasn't the only time I cried, because I remember it was magical the last few weeks, and I'd spent it with my boys, and three of them are Leicester fans, and we don't talk to George. But it was most of Leicester's games were always on a Sunday towards the latter stages, because the games were moved for live TV, etc. And we used to sit and watch, and it was agonising every week, and the closer it got, the more agonising it got in a way, because you thought, if it doesn't happen now, if it doesn't happen with this lead we got, it'll be the worst thing in ever. And then, funnily enough, obviously the day that Leicester won the league, they weren't playing, because it was Chelsea versus Tottenham at Stamford Bridge. Tottenham went up, and we thought, oh no, this can still go wrong. This can still go wrong. And we were all sat there, and then they pulled one back, and then Eden Hazard bent that one in the top corner, and I swear that was the most wonderful, best sporting moment in my entire life. You can take away winning the FA Cup, actually winning it, all sorts of big games and stuff, and huddling with the boys, all of it, and I absolutely tears rolling down my cheeks. So Claudio Ranieri, number 1 for me.
The way he handled that situation all season, because every single week, I think almost everyone was saying, oh, the bubble's going to burst, it's not going to last. Yeah. But the way he handled it, the way he kept his players from not feeling the pressure, to the way his players went out and kept on performing. I know that you can look at that and say other clubs are in a transitional period, which perhaps they were, but the way he handled his players that season and kept the pressure off them.
But Al, the thing as well, guys, is that when you look at the different leagues he's been in and the experience he got from those leagues, for him to get through, like you're saying, Al, you're totally right. For them to get through to the end and win it. But for me, I still cannot understand how, when you look at the team, what he had, journeymen and players, Wes Morgan and Simpson and all these guys, Fuchs, never even heard of. And then all of a sudden we see Kante, Mahrez, and then all of a sudden you see this team. It was the game against Manchester City.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I watched that game, I thought to myself, they're going to win the league. Yeah. That was a game for me. At that
point, I thought it's a tiny bit possible. It was like the one moment I thought they could actually do this. If, and then I thought, no, there are too many ifs. But it was,
it's so strange how you become a fan, because all of a sudden, I'm watching Leicester games thinking, come on, Leicester, you could do it. I remember when Wes Morgan scored at Manchester United. I think Wes Morgan.
equaliser.
I've never jumped so high. Even in Arsenal winning games, I've jumped literally, I touched the roof. You know, when Wes scored that goal, because after a while you started to think, this is magnificent, man. If they could finish, they're not going to finish it, but if they can, what a great opportunity this is. And they did it.
It was lovely. It was lovely
amazing.
that the whole country got behind them as
Absolutely.
well. It was just, it was joyous. But we mustn't talk about Leicester all the time, obviously. Let's go into the big territory now of the top 5. Alan, as you've just done yours, we'll continue with you. If you would give us, in reverse order, please, Alan, your 5 to number 1 and find out who we believe is the greatest Premier League manager of all time.
Okay, my top 5 are Sir Kenny Dalglish, number 5. Number 4 is Pep Guardiola. Number 3 is Jose Mourinho. Number 2 is Arsene Wenger. And number 1 is Sir Alex Ferguson.
Which is not overly surprising, I have to say. Let's go back down first, Alan, to Sir Kenny, who managed you, of course, at Blackburn, won the title. He also won it, of course, 3 times with Liverpool, albeit in the era of the pre-football. So it has to be included a bit, but it's probably why he's not a little bit higher. It also gave you probably the finest moment of your career, winning the Premier League, or was that winning Le Tournoi?
I did win something then. See, Kenny was brilliant as a. I mean, when you consider where Blackburn were when he took over them in the old second division, for them to come into Blackburn and take the big boys on, take the might of Man United on, and beat Manchester United 4th in his first season, 2nd in our second season in the Premier League, and then to win it after 3 years was an incredible achievement. And I know that people will say, yeah, well, you had the wealth of the owner of Jack Walker. Well, it's all right having the wealth, as we've seen with many clubs over the years, that he spent it very, very wisely, and he created something incredibly special at Blackburn.
Yeah. I think that you have to look at what he's done, because the pressure that he was under, because we're seeing the kind of pressure that Manchester City get, what Chelsea got when Abramovich came in, and he was under that kind of pressure when he bought them. So they were saying, no, they were expecting something to happen from Blackburn. We all were as players. We're looking at, my gosh, they just bought Shearer for 3.6. 3.6. It's extraordinary. It's miles too much. I actually went, it's miles too much money for Shearer.
So did I, actually, righty.
But then what happened is that when we played against them, they instantly, and like people seem to think that it was just one season, but it took 3 seasons they got there. When you went into the tunnel with them, you could look at them, they had the belief. They knew. You knew that they were going to be doing something. They had everything in every department. That's why I was pleased I mentioned Tim Flowers, because he was amazing from that year. You know, you can't not mention Colin Hendry. Tim Sherwood has got to get a lot of prayer, and then obviously Al scored the goals. But the fact is, people like Wilcox, Ripley, these guys, unbelievable team he put together.
For a forward, righty, the team that he created.
Oh,
I mean, with Wilcox on the left wing and then Ripley on the right wing, we just knew the system. Those 2 guys were two of the hardest working guys I've ever seen on a football pitch in terms of getting up and getting down and whipping balls into the box. I mean, the teams knew what they were going to do, but they couldn't stop them.
The thing with there's only 2 players I've ever seen cause Nigel Winterburn a problem in all the time I played with Nigel. So consistent, no one ever got to the best of him. Stuart Ripley and Rule Fox. Stuart Ripley was one of those that was so underrated. Same with Jason Wilcox. But Stuart Ripley in more for me, because you'd watch your team and you think to yourself, my gosh, the chances are coming from everywhere.
I suppose the only sad thing really is a month or so after that, after winning the title, then Kenny sort of stood down and went to director of football, because I'm pretty sure that we could have gone on and perhaps win it again and again. But Ray Harford got the job as manager, who was Kenny's number 2, and he was a brilliant coach, one of the best coaches I've ever had. But the mistake we made in that summer is we didn't sign any players, and of course, when you win a title, you've got to build and you've got to get better and to improve. But Ray felt it was the right thing to do, to give the players that chance to go on again and do something similar, and that was a big mistake. But in terms of the coach, Ray was incredible. But yeah, we were disappointed when Kenny did what he did.
If Kenny stayed, would you have stayed?
Possibly, yeah, because we finished. I think we finished 6th that following season after winning it.
Even after that Euro '96, what you had, which was like leading in. Remember, you know, you hadn't scored for England. It was going really badly in respect of the goal scoring. Wenner's obviously said to you that you're going to play whatever happens. Even if Kenny stayed and you had that Euros, would you still have turned Newcastle down to stay at Blackburn?
Well, I think that all depends, right? In terms because Kenny was director of football that season, leading up to 96. And you're right, I couldn't hit a barn door for England for whatever reason, but I was still scoring in the Premier League with Blackburn. But I'm sure it could have been different if Kenny had stayed on as manager, because as I said, he was a great bloke and a great manager.
Guys, I've just noticed my top 5 is identical to ours. I think it speaks for itself, that top 5.
In the same order?
Absolute same order, yeah.
Oh,
you haven't just changed it and copied me then, have you?
You shut your mouth. Of course I haven't.
Copy and paste.
I didn't copy and paste. The fact is that when you look at that and the way I got down to the 5, it felt natural for me to do it like that, because I think that order is probably exactly how they should be, personally.
Yeah. Okay.
Personally.
That's absolutely. Well, let's go to Pep Guardiola, what he's done is truly incredible everywhere. He's been with big clubs naturally, but you know, he won loads of league titles at Barcelona, loads of league titles at Bayern Munich. Now he's doing exactly the same at Manchester City, but he's only in 4th place. He's got the best winning percentage of any of the managers, quite comfortably in that list at 74%. He's almost transformed the way football's played. Why is he so low?
I think that you have to look at him as one of the most tactical minds in the last 10 years. I think that we can't hide the fact that he's spent over £1 billion. You know, it could be euros, and you know, he spent £500 million on defenders. That's going to help you. But at the same time, the brand of football that he has given us in the last 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is, has been outstanding. And I think that he's the effect that's had on the game, and the way people look at the game, and the way players play, and the way he's improved players. Like we've mentioned, it's about improving players, of course, and longevity. Wouldn't say he's been here long enough, but if he stayed anywhere near as long as Wenger or Alex Ferguson, then we'd really be able to say, oh my gosh, he's amazing. But the fact is, for what he's done in this space of time, we can't ignore the fact that the Barcelona team that he managed was arguably one of the greatest football teams in the last 50 years. Let's have it right. So, you know, for him to move on, he didn't win the Champions League at Bayern Munich, didn't win it at Man City, which is something that I think he needs to do. But at the same time, what he's done for the game to this point, he has to be in and around there, and he can't be any higher.
I think for people to ask the question, which they have done, is his team the best team we've seen in the Premier League? Even for them to ask that question tells you how well he's done as a manager. You're right, some of the football that his team plays, and we've seen centre-halves go into midfield, we've seen midfielders go back to centre-halves, and
right-backs going inside.
That's right. So, I mean, and also didn't win anything in his first season. I think, is that the only season that he's not won a trophy? So it's just incredible.
Let me ask you both a question here, which is slightly different to choosing your all-time top Premier League managers. Let me ask you this question: if you were playing now, who would you most want to play for in their prime as a manager?
I'd probably go with Klopp, because I think I'd be too afraid of Sir Alex. I feel that Arsene Wenger, when I was with Arsene Wenger, he's a little bit too placid for me, need a bit more. And I believe that someone like Klopp would probably have me on that line I'd need to be on. It's probably be Klopp for me.
Yeah, I would probably say the same. I mean, there's not a lot between them, is there, in terms of the number of chances that they create for their forwards. I mean, we mentioned it the other day, didn't we? And when we said about Alexander-Arnold whipping those balls in, or De Bruyne whipping those balls in, and the chances that are created in both Liverpool and City's team for a forward, it's dreamland. Yeah. It wouldn't bother me either. Either one would be a dream to play for.
I'd be definitely between either of those two, despite the success of others like Jose Mourinho, Alex Ferguson. I think, if you look at the two systems, though, for a centre-forward, I think that the Liverpool one relies a lot on their centre forward dropping deep, which we've seen with Bobby Firmino all the time, which is not necessarily what any of us like doing too much. Whereas Pep's system does create so many chances for the centre forward rather than perhaps as much for the two wide players. And also I think it's so interesting playing for Pep and the stuff that goes on in his mind. But it's so difficult. You'd love to play for either of them, I think that's for sure.
To tell you what I'd love to have seen? Suarez in his prime in this Klopp team. Because then, yes, they do create stuff and everything, but he can make something out of nothing. He's, it'd be interesting to see him.
Yeah, neither any of you has mentioned Jose Mourinho as perhaps the manager to play for. For a striker, maybe not, because obviously his style of football was slightly different and not quite as expansive.
Yeah, but also look at his record. Jose's record is just incredible. What is it? 320 odd games, 62%. Win 3 times Premier League champion, FA Cup winner, League Cup. So
4-time world's best coach, which is the leader out of all of them, actually, I think, on that particular one. 2 times for Alex Ferguson, twice for Pep Guardiola, once for Klopp, 4-time world coach of the year. That says something, Jose. But he's a bit Marmite, isn't he?
When he first came in, didn't he? He had this arrogance that people, I think, loved and enjoyed, in terms of he was this cheeky chappy who had incredible belief in his ability, and rightly so, and won the league in the first 2 years he was at Chelsea, didn't he? The first year and the second year that he was there his first time. So, but he's slightly changed, hasn't he, to over the years? I
think other managers are obviously doing the same thing. You have to look at the meticulous way in which they're all preparing now. I think that's come down to the way that Pep has kind of brought it on. I believe that when I watched the Chelsea team, especially in his second tenure there, Mourinho, for half a season, that was the best football I think I've seen for many, many years. Rivaling like the Invincibles, what the Invincibles, I nearly said the Incredibles, because me and my girls were watching that. We're watching that. Rivaling the Incredibles. No, but the fact is the Invincibles. But then you looked at his time at Man United, and what's happened is the way he's kind of, it's almost like a demise. It's constantly moaning. He's miserable. It's always someone else's fault. You just feel like when he's not involved in football, he looks like somebody that's like, he feels happy. As soon as he gets back in, his face goes solemn. He's gone again. And it's just like he's lost that vibe. He's lost something. Something doesn't seem to be there.
Do you think perhaps, though, part and parcel of that is because perhaps player power has changed and they won't put up with perhaps the way he dealt with players? There's a lot of fallouts he happened to him at Real Madrid, didn't it? We've seen it at 1 or 2 other clubs and the latter stages of his managerial career. Do you think there's anything in that?
There might be a little bit of something in that, but I feel that Alex Ferguson had to deal with something like that to a certain extent, especially when we saw what happened with that Wayne Rooney situation, where it was like Wayne Rooney was saying, "Oh, what's happening in respect of bringing players in?" That player power thing started to happen there, and he kind of got that under control. But no, I think that for me, if I'm a manager now, look, you see with Pep, you see with Klopp, you see with with Pochettino, I saw with Arsenal, you adapt to the player, because at the end of the day, you live and die by the players.
I think next season will tell us a lot in terms of that answer, Gary, because he's gone into Tottenham now. I'm pretty certain he thinks it's a bigger job in terms of the players that are there. I think from the outside, it looked as if the players were better than they actually were, and he's got inside the football club, and it's probably a bigger one and a more difficult job than he thought he was taking on. We'll learn a lot more about that next season.
We certainly will. Arsene Wenger, I've got to talk to you, Ian, about Arsene. Tell us what he was like. Was he as cool and calm and relaxed as he seems?
Honestly, it was. I remember the interview where he walks in, and it's the first time anybody's ever seen him, especially any of us. He had his massive glasses on. This oversized jacket. He literally looked like a professor. He looked like a teacher. He looked like somebody that should have been doing a seminar at a university or something. And then when he came in, I remember he came in and we saw him, I think it might have been a Thursday. and he explained to us what he's going to try and do. He's going to change the diet. He's going to change our training regime. He wants people to rest more. He literally was saying to us, we want you to drink more water. We want you to eat. We want you to chew your food more. These are the things. These are the diet.
Righty, what? Tell me, because there was so many times playing against those Arsenal teams over the years. Certainly, after a year or two, he came in. I used to look at you and think, how are you so fit? How are you so strong? And I used to think, what are you guys on? What are you taking? How come? What's happening here?
You know what it was, Al? We used to have vitamin injections directly into us, into our arm, right into there. Bam.
This is starting to sound a little bit suspect.
No. It's not
Are you
suspect.
sure it was vitamins?
It felt good. Whatever happened.
God.
But the fact is, it was straight in. We used to get sent to France. I used to have to do a session with a guy. I used to go there for 2 weeks, because when you got to us like 30 and older, he was worried about how you were rehabilitating after you'd played games and how you'd recover. And I used to have to go and see a guy called Thibaut Starot. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but it was like going to see Yoda. And, he'd do the fitness, he'd do the food for you. You'd go and train on the beach, you'd go to sleep. I remember I used to go there with Patrick, and I used to go there with certain people. And you'd go there, and someone like Paolo Maldini, you go there, Paolo Maldini will be leaving. People like that, somebody from motocross will be leaving. He was the person that you'd go to when he wanted to find out exactly what you're about. That's what Arsene Wenger done. He took you to a place where you had to be literally the best you could be. And that's what he done with us. The B6 tablets, the B12, the training. I remember when we started a pre-season, after we finished, and you know what the pre-season was normally like, running you into the ground to the point where people are vomiting. You know what I mean? And they say, yeah, brilliant, that's a good pre-season. We literally hardly done anything to the point where Tony and Lee Dixon had to say to him, boss, we just don't feel fit enough. And he literally called everybody in and he said, you may not feel right now, but as we move on with everything you're doing, if you continue to take what we're telling you to take and train like we're telling you to train, we will just get stronger. And he was absolutely right.
Did it take time for the older professionals to take that on board? Because I'm sure a lot of you that would have looked at him and thought, what is this guy on about?
Al, honestly, Al, you can imagine. It's like, when you start doing a warm-up and the lads say, God, what, we're an athletic club now? Jeez, how much running we doing? Oh, God, yeah. Like we used to say at Crystal Palace Athletic Club, Arsenal Athletic Club, because we'd run so much. And when Bruce Ritt was there, because he had an army background, it was literally, we were doing SAS work. You know what I mean? You see people with tears in their eyes at the end of the bloody pre-season training. It's fucking ridiculous it was. When Arsene Wenger came in, he cut that right back. We took the tablets, and what we found is that the foreign boys, Patrick, Dennis, all the boys, Manu Petit, Remy, all the guys, Nicholas, as soon as he said, take this, they took it. The English boys, and some of us were like, oh, really? What's that about? Oh, God, here we go. What's this tablet? Oh. And then we weren't taking it for a while, and then slowly you introduced it in, and you could see that they were training at a different level after 6-7 weeks than you were. So when you started taking it, everybody got to the same level. Yeah. We just got so strong in the games.
I have to say, this sounds dreadfully suspicious.
Sounds great, though. Yeah, it's great, though. Eh?
I hope you're not getting Arsenal into trouble.
It doesn't matter. We've already got the medals.
We're going to be awarded the FA Cup in 1998 because Arsenal players took drugs.
It's the only way you're not going to get a FA Cup medal. Basically, it was stuff that like everybody knows today: vitamin C, B12, omega-3. It was just he was so far ahead of his time. Before he came, we were eating anything we wanted. We were still eating pies and chips.
Ian, obviously, they had to move grounds once they went to the Emirates from Highbury. They didn't win another league title. Do you think that had a part to play?
I think it had a massive part to play because I think his remit was to continue to qualify for the Champions League, and by that he had to continue to bring through young players, try to get them to perform at a level where they can still get into the top four, and he done it for 19 years. Yeah. Unbelievable. Now you look back at it, and at a time when you have to say he was literally the only football man left in the management side of things. So he literally had carte blanche on all the decisions, and I don't think that was a good thing. And I think
he worked better when he was with David Dein?
Without a doubt, I feel that whatever happened with the David Dein, with the Danny Fisman, and everything, what went on with those guys, why David Dein had to be marched out of the Arsenal It's a story that I'm sure that at some stage we'll find out. But at the same time, I think it hurt the club massively. David Dein not being there to help Arsene Wenger because he needed help towards the end. I think that for him to have so much power to be able to do whatever he wanted and, not have anybody to question maybe certain footballing decisions and what he needed to do, don't think it helped. And then I feel that as time went by, I think the players, they got a little bit lax in their output, in their enthusiasm. There wasn't no accountability for losses. It just seemed to just be going into just mediocrity. That's what happened towards the end. And it was very hard, Gal, because what happened is that you're talking about Arsenal and you're doing the live games and you're doing the punditry about them, and there's not much positive that you could do. And it was a really tough time for me to the point where I stopped doing certain things because I didn't want to continuously have to criticise Arsenal.
Can I ask you, Ian, on a personal front, your relationship with Arsene Wenger? Yeah. How did he deal with you?
You know when I realised that it was over for me was I started to get into rollerblading.
What?
Into what? Did we hear that right, Gary?
I think so.
I started to get into rollerblading to the point where I was doing it so often that I would get to the ground early.
I bet you did on those.
I get to the ground early, and when you got to the Arsenal, there was a place where it was so smooth. You could do all the rollerblading, all the roller skating, all the stuff. And so I remember I had them on, and then this particular day, and this is the day when I realised my time's short here now, is because I kept them on because I said I wanted to skate through the marble halls on rollerblades. Right, so I went through, had to go through the back, and there's a lot of smooth bits where you can still skate down. Got to the bit where the ticket office is there in the marble halls, went through the door. As I started skating, Arsene Wenger was standing right in the middle of the marble halls. And like we went past like that, when you go past somebody, you look at each other like that. Looked at me, and then I stopped, and then he went, "Ian, this is unacceptable for a professional footballer." And I said, I'm really sorry, boss. I'm very sorry. And he went through the whole thing about, do you realise what can happen to you if you twist your ankle, if you fall off? And I said, yeah, I'm really sorry. It's very irresponsible. And from that day, I knew, and that was what, halfway through 97, 98 season. Funny, we went on to win the league. And I knew that was probably my time to leave because Nicolas Anelka was emerging and he was amazing.
Get on your rollerblades and get out of there. Get out of Highbury Fat. I think you just wanted to be a bit taller, didn't you?
No. You know, the thing is, it's just that I didn't see, all the way through my career, I literally done what I wanted to do. I'm quite pleased with the way it worked out. And I was very fortunate in the end to be managed by someone of his calibre.
I've never heard of a player used as an excuse to rollerblade to get out of a football club.
You shut your mouth.
It's the best ever. It's the best ever. Usually blame the wives or something like that. But anyway. Right, let's move on to our winner. I think it's unanimous. It had to be, really, didn't it? 810 games, 528 wins, 65% win rate. 13-time Premier League champion, 11-time manager of the season, 2 times world best coach, 2-time Champions League winner, 5-time FA Cup winner, 3-time Scottish champion when he was there with Aberdeen, of course, 4-time Scottish Cup winner, 2008 Club World Cup winner, and 2-time UEFA Super Cup winner. But apart from that, what has Sir Alex Ferguson ever done for anyone?
You know what I mean? How can you turn that man down? How can anyone turn him down?
What an idiot. What an idiot. Staggering. I think we mentioned it earlier, didn't we, in terms of what was impressive about him is how he continued to build his team. When he knew that team was at the peak, then he had to start again, and he did start again and was equally as successful with the team that he built again. I think it was also, he knew that he wasn't afraid to get rid of players. As soon as he knew their time was up, they were out the door, weren't they? No problem. Get out the door. Yeah. I'll get rid of you and I'll replace you with someone else. It's incredible. Yeah,
Alan, do you think he's still angry at you for not joining?
No, not. We've spoken many times since then.
You know what?
Are you joking? Did you see the trophies they won without me? I don't think he's that bothered, no.
You know what? Can I just go on to say as well? You know, we just spoke about Arsene Wenger, and it's the number twos that Arsene Wenger. I believe that he should have changed the back room up a bit, freshened it up a bit. Alex Ferguson knew that he needed different people at different stages, freshen it up, bring in a new idea and listen to people. Something that I believe that Arsene Wenger didn't do. And even when you look at that 2013 side, what won the league, when people said, oh my God, it's the worst Man United side I've ever seen to win the league. And they did win the league, and they won it, you know, under Alex Ferguson. And people say things like they could not have won that league with that team with any other manager. He was literally unbelievable. He's amazing. He's the best. He is the best, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's not just one thing. It's the whole package, isn't it? You can't be around for that amount of time with the turnover of players, not to get the best out of the vast majority of all those players, and keep a lid on that year in, year out, and deliver. I mean, it's just incredible.
And then bringing players through, then the signings that he made to add to those. And then obviously you have to mention the Cantona signing. When Cantona, Al, do you remember where you were when Cantona signed? You think, what was signing him for? You know what I mean? From Leeds. And you think to yourself, now you look at it, and what the impression that Cantona made on the Beckhams, Scholes, Nevilles, and all those guys to come through, for them to then dominate the Premier League like they did under the stewardship on the pitch of Roy Keane, you have to say it's a genius what he done. It's magnificent what he done.
I often talk to Steve Bruce about Sir Alex, and some of the stories he says is how he treated Eric Cantona differently to what other players. I mean, everyone would have to come in a suit, and Eric sometimes would come in jeans, and all the players would look at it and think, how on earth is this allowed? And one would go and see the manager, and Alex would say, you don't worry about him. I'll manage him. He wins us games. He delivers the points for us. So I'll manage him in the way that is the best way. And that's the sign of a great manager, is how you handle those players that give you difficult moments.
Yeah, but I remember there was that season where they had maybe 6 or 7 1-0 wins, and he scored all the goals. That's what he done. He won games for Man United. He was unbelievable talisman. And from Alex Ferguson to recognise that from Leeds for £1 million, bring him there to turn into, they're still singing the fella's name. Magnificent management.
I know it's not that long since Sir Alex Ferguson finished managing, but do you think his style of management would still be successful to this day?
He would adapt, Gary. There's no doubt about it. That's what you have to do. It's like saying, would a great player from 30 or 40 years ago be a great player today? Yes, they would. That's what great managers, great players would be able to do. And Sir Alex would without doubt be a great manager today,
Yeah. You say that, but look at Jose Mourinho. Has he been able to adapt the way the game's evolved?
Not for me.
Well, when you look at his time at Manchester United, all right, won a couple of trophies, but then his time at Tottenham, I still think you've got to give him next year or the season after to judge that.
Yeah, but when you look at me for Jose Mourinho, I think that for him to get back to where he was, he needs a lot of money. I don't see the way that he manages in this current climate, the guy that can make a team start to build and play how they can play now. I think he needs money.
Well, we all agree that Alex Ferguson is the number one all-time Premier League manager. But one personal question to you both. First of all, Ian, why did you never go into management?
Too emotional for a start. I shouldn't have listened to some agents that I had who told me not to take the badges because what's the point and this and that. And, you know, why would you want to be a coach? It's going to be so hard. That's the worst advice I could have had. I would love to have done it because just to say that I had a chance of doing it. Now it will never happen, and I only blame myself. I'd love to have had a go to fail.
So you've got regrets. You've actually got regrets for not giving it a pot.
Yes, because I feel that everything I've done in my life, once I was 22, got into the game, has been to try and progress. And I thought that was a negative thing, and I could only blame the agent side at the time. They dissuaded me from going down that road. I'm gutted.
You've been all right in the business that you've gone into, though, mate. That's not too bad.
It's worked out all right.
As for you, Alan, you went obviously to have a go at management. You did that short period at Newcastle, which didn't quite work out for you. Are you still disappointed that you didn't get another go at it? Part of you? Yeah.
I thought even despite what happened, I loved the 8 games that I had, and I still thought after that I was going to stay on and have crack at it and getting them back up. But it wasn't meant to be. I think, if anything, what the 8 games taught me is to appreciate how much a difficult job it is, and huge respect for the guys that are in there as managers, and particularly ones that have been there year after year, and the number of games they've racked up, because it's incredibly tough and things you have to deal with. Do
you look at it occasionally and think, I'd love to get back into it and have another go?
No, not now. No, I don't. I don't. I don't think that at all now. That was then. This is now. I'm happy in what I'm doing, but I don't see any chance of me going back into it. No,
not me. I look at it and genuinely believe I could do what Pep and Klopp are doing. That's how I only see the good stuff. And then I realise after 6 games, if you lose a couple, then it starts, the fans go against you. Probably it wouldn't work out for me. Too emotional.
Just go rollerblading then, righty.
You shut your mouth.
So, Alan, give me your top 10.
And my 10 were, number 10 is Ancelotti, 9 is Benitez, 8 is Sir Bobby Robson, 7 is Ranieri, 6 is Klopp, 5 is Sir Kenny Dalglish, 4 is Pep Guardiola, 3 is Jose Mourinho, 2 is Arsene Wenger, and number 1 is Sir Alex Ferguson.
And Ian, your top 10.
Ranieri 10, Ancelotti 9, Sir Bobby Robson 8, Rafa Benitez 7, Jurgen Klopp 6, Kenny Dalglish 5, Pep Guardiola 4, Jose Mourinho 3, Arsene Wenger 2, and Sir Alex Ferguson 1.
Okay, that's it from us this week. If you had a difference of opinion as to the top 10, you can always have your say by going to the BBC Sport website. We'll be back again next week. Goodbye for now. That's it for this episode of Match of the Day Top 10. I'm assuming you've enjoyed it because you've made it to the end. If you want more football, Mark Chapman, Kelly Cates and the 5 Live Sport team have the latest analysis and interviews every day. Just search for Football Daily, which also features Righty, usually on a Tuesday morning. Just search for Football Daily on BBC Sounds.
Available now on BBC Sounds.
Hi there, Ellis James and John Robbins here. Due to being such hard work socially, John Robbins has been living in self-isolation for most of his life.
And now, due to the spread of COVID-19, the rest of the world has joined me. And that means Ellis too.
So, as we batten down the hatches and practice social distancing, we bring you Ellis and John, the isolation tips.
Armed with 2 USB microphones, patchy broadband and state-of-the-art duvet soundproofing, we will keep you company throughout these unprecedented times.
Ellis James and John Robbins, the Isolation Tapes.
Available on our usual show podcast feed on BBC Sounds right now.